Hi, and welcome to the presentation for Budgety, the browser-based budget application. I'm Peter Perevsky, and I'm here with Stephanie Gibson. We are going to be covering the first portion of this presentation, which is the project scenario and scope. For our project scenario, we had a couple different ideas, but the one we ended up landing on was for an envisioned a financial startup that was named Budgety that came to us with the idea for an application they wanted to create. The main function of this application was going to be a budget calculator, so to teach users financial responsibility. The users will be able to log into their account to use the application. Users will be able also to input their income, their expenses, and also include a subject and value with those as well. The users will also delete items as they see fit, and the application will display the difference between the two, the income and the expense, as well as displaying a percentage of each expense versus total income. And these will be stored and can be recalled at later dates as well. For future planning, we also wanted to have the application have the potential to run reports from the data, which is all going to be stored remotely since this is a browser-based application. This is going to allow users to query previous month's data as well. And for this project, we envisioned that the application is going to be because it's completely cloud-based, we wanted to have a little bit of a twist to it. So we imagined that the company is going to be advertising this as a secure solution. So since there's going to be sensitive data in the application, we wanted to test for quality and for some security issues that might go a little bit beyond what a general browser application may have. So those needed to be fleshed out before the release of the version 1.
For this project, we decided as a group to come up with the key deliverables that the Budgety client would use to decide if we were successful or not. The client has a technology startup aesthetic, so the UI must be clean and minimalist with easy to use features. There must be a user login that functions as a gateway to the user's personal dashboard. Additionally, users must be able to input and remove expenses and income at will while still showing the live total. The application must be browser-based so that nothing needs to be downloaded or stored locally. Data must be able to be stored and recalled later. This also leaves the door open for future teams to create full report creation functionality. And lastly, due to the nature of the user data, which is being saved, the application must undergo a full audit for resistance to common security issues and usability.
We used a bunch of tools for this project. Confluence was our main project management tool, and that was our main file repository. We used it for being able to share and edit documents as a group and collaborate on them. We used both Slack and Discord for our communication tools. We were spending most of our time texting and sharing files on Slack, and Discord was used for our voice communication. Visio was used for our diagramming. GitHub was used for our program file sharing and for version control. We used Visual Studio 2017 for the backend IDE, which was programmed with Node. NPM was used as the package manager for the various dependencies. Postman was used for troubleshooting the server's request and response. And finally, Mongo's cloud platform Atlas was used for the creation, administration of the database, running queries, etc.
To keep our team on track, we created a Gantt chart with various tasks and set timelines that ensured a timely completion of our tasks and, more importantly, were obtainable. Although we had a few minor issues, we were able to follow our original timeline and complete all the tasks that we set for ourselves.
A key aspect of this project was the creation of the work breakdown structure, which was how we planned out the various tasks and responsibilities that were going to go into the creation of the Budgety application. We had 4 main ones: the project planning, the design and development, the hosting and testing phase, and the implementation and creation of this presentation. During the first phase, we sat down and did the requirement determination, looked at the scope of the project, we created our timeline, and then we actually sat down and did the work breakdown structure and the Gantt charts. Secondly, we did the application's actual design. Once that was set, we did the UI design and development on the front end, and then the back end development, and then the creation of the actual database to wrap it all together. For the third section, we sat down and wrote out the server specifications that would be needed for an enterprise client to run this. We actually implemented the application, and then we ran the QA and security test audit on the application. For the fourth section, we released the tested application, gathered all of the documentation for our client, and then created this presentation, which would be able to be released to the budgeting corporation as a proof of concept.
In the first two slides, we present our old sign-in and sign-up page for the budgetary application. Though after some testing, it was determined that using this would not benefit our idea for the back-end authentication. So it was back to the drawing board for both the front-end and back-end developers to figure out a better way to solve this issue. Once the issue was solved, newly created sign-in pages were created for the users.
As Dominic discussed, a new method for user authentication was necessary. We found it vital to ensure user security. We therefore decided to use backend technology to implement user authentication. We built a Node.js app with additional frameworks to handle such needs. We used MongoDB as our database to allow for scalability. All passwords are hashed when sent to the database to maintain security. This was done by using bcrypt. To enhance user experience, users are alerted to events that take place. On our welcome page, users are prompted by two button options to sign in or register. We use form validation to make sure that all fields were submitted correctly. Users are then notified of their successful registration. They are also alerted to successful logins and logouts. The front end is where our app displays its main functionality. We created a minimal and clean UI that makes it easy for users to navigate our site. At the very top, the current month is displayed, and this is changed dynamically. As we heard further down the page, users see their current budget with a breakdown of incomes and expenses. Below that is where an income and expense can be inputted. There are green or red hues which surround the input fields to display to users what input is being entered. It is then displayed below according to the input type. Users can freely delete items, giving flexibility to mistakes. When they are ready, a submit button for report is placed alongside of the rest of the input fields. This will submit the data in the UI to be handled by the back end of our application. At the bottom of the page is a footer to navigate through the rest of our pages.
Next few slides are the README files connected to this project that will give a bit of information to developers who would be interested in possibly using this application or contributing. The information provided briefly describes the usage of this application and the original contributors to the project, ending off on a welcoming, newly desired pull requests to the project from future developers. Lastly is the teams page that describes what each member on the team has contributed to the budgetary application. When users reach this page, they have the ability to get back to the original budgetary app webpage, sign-in, or sign-up page for the application. The Valencia College text centered in the footer is a link to Valencia's website homepage that users will also be able to click and navigate to.
Hello, my name is Jason Kinney, and in this section, I will be discussing the security and pen testing portion of budgeting. All testing was conducted in a secure lab environment and approved by the reciting authority of budgeting. In addition, all testing requirements were met and addressed in the QA testing and security hardening plan section of this presentation. To start, we had to define the structure of budgeting. Once this was completed, we attempted to exploit the target. The first finding was the DNS server allowed for zone transfers, which in turn gave us access to the server. Once we gained access, we quickly escalated privileges to admin rights. This led to performing a hash dump, which we could run against any number of word lists to break the password hashes. Next, we performed a buffer overflow test. This was successful in that the server did not validate the input, which allowed us to inject a malicious code that would run in the background to capture more data. In addition to this, we also were able to run a Java app attack, which let us inject a malicious applet. In conclusion, There were a number of issues that we found with budgeting. Pen testing is a vital step to take to identify any weaknesses in a product before going live as to avoid any attacks being successful. We have listed in the security and hardening report all recommendations that address the weaknesses discovered in our testing of budgeting.